The first powered parachutes were actually government experiments conducted by Notre Dame University in the 1960s. According to Bob Moraski of Schaefer, there were a couple of decades that went by before the powered parachute was revived in the 1980s. As a powered parachute enthusiast, Bob has collected many items regarding the sport, including the very first parachute used at Notre Dame.
This is a paraplane conceived by Steve Snyder and Dan Thompson back in, actually they started in about 82, 83, and it was released to the public in 84. And that's where it all began.
Now, this is kind of a crude model?
Well, actually, when you back up way back to 84, it's really quite a masterpiece. There's a technology in this that we don't see in today's machines. For example, it'll actually fold up and fit in the the trunk of the average vehicle. So it's quite unique.
But they are two cylinders, but in this case, it's two cylinders, two separate engines.
That's correct, right. Two props counter-rotating, two engines, and for a long time, many people thought that the reason for that was to compensate for the torque that was created and had an effect on the parachute. But the reality of it is that that's not at all the reason for it. It's to give you a better glide ratio should you lose one of the motors. Normally, you get a glide ratio of about 1 to 3. For every foot that you come down, you go forward 3. That's kind of a rule of thumb. With this, if you lose one motor, you get a glide ratio of roughly 10 to 1. So if you're in an area where you have to get to a field, you have a better chance of getting there because your glide ratio is so enhanced with one of the motors still running. Buck, this is actually the last issue of the paraplane. When they went out of business in '97, they were purchased to a gentleman from, I believe, yes, Japan, purchased it and ran into financial problems. And in '97, this is the last of the series. We previously saw the first of the series. This is the last of the series. It went from 1 passenger to 2 passenger. Of course, a much larger motor and a much larger parachute. And needless to say, this one does not fold up, and one cannot put it in the trunk of a vehicle. I fell in love with powered parachutes in '94. Previous to that, I had played around with fixed wing, but never could take care of them because of that massive wingspan. Never felt right about building a building just to house the aircraft. So you can see how small these are, how portable they are, how easy they are to transport from one point to the next. So most of us have enclosed trailers, and those enclosed trailers, of course, can also be our hangars. So it works out great. If we wish to fly up at Munising or Grand Marais, we just take the trailer and take off from the beach or a football field or a baseball field. I've taken off from Harnish Fair and from the casino, Chip-In Casino, Lambeau Field in Green Bay, and private driveways and so forth. So very easy to work with. Actually, the most novel is not here. It would probably be John Kennedy, the late president's son, John Kennedy Jr. The aircraft is not here. It's in another building. That would be probably the one that I appreciate the most. Second would be the items that I got from the James Bond movie, The World Is Not Enough. We got the fuselages, motors, the parachutes. It's just a question of assembling the units, and we'll pretty much have a complete unit as was used in the movie.
Powered suspension and linear steering. The owner is Bill Quachani of Escanaba.